Most gardeners make the same mistake every year. They look at a shady corner of their yard and assume it's useless for growing food. So they focus all their attention on the sunniest spots, while those partially shaded areas sit empty season after season. But here's the surprising truth. Some vegetables actually grow better with less sun. In fact, a few of the crops on today's list become sweeter, more tender, and more productive when protected from intense afternoon heat. And one of them is so shade-loving that too much sunlight can ruin the harvest completely. So before you give up on that shady garden bed, stay with me as we count down 20 vegetables that can turn those overlooked areas into some of the most productive parts of your garden. Let's get started. Number 20, mustard greens. USDA zones, 2 to 11. Most people think mustard greens need full sun to thrive. While they can grow in sunny conditions, they often perform much better in partial shade, especially during warm weather. When exposed to intense summer sun, mustard greens tend to become tougher and develop a much stronger, sometimes bitter flavor. A little afternoon shade helps the leaves stay tender, juicy, and more enjoyable to eat. Many gardeners are surprised by how quickly mustard greens grow. Some varieties can be harvested in as little as a month, making them one of the fastest crops for shaded gardens. Number 19, mache, corn salad. USDA zones, 4 to 11. This little-known European green has been quietly winning over gardeners for centuries. Mache produces soft, spoon-shaped leaves with a mild, nutty flavor that many people prefer over traditional lettuce. What makes it special is its ability to thrive in cool, low-light conditions where many vegetables struggle. In fact, excessive heat and bright sun can cause plants to decline quickly. That's why experienced gardeners often grow mache in partially shaded beds, especially in spring and fall. If you've never tried it before, you're missing one of the easiest and most reliable salad greens for shady spaces. Number 18, Claytonia. USDA zones, 3 to 9. Also known as miner's lettuce, Claytonia may be one of the most underrated vegetables in the gardening world. Native to woodland environments, it naturally evolved beneath trees where sunlight is limited. As a result, it actually prefers conditions that would frustrate many other crops. Its succulent leaves remain tender and delicious in shade, while strong sunlight can cause plants to bolt much faster. Claytonia is also incredibly cold-hardy and often continues producing when many other greens have stopped. And while these first three vegetables tolerate shade well, the next plant is one of the few leafy crops that many gardeners accidentally destroy by giving it too much sun. Now we're moving into vegetables that don't just tolerate shade, they often prefer it. These crops can turn areas with limited sunlight into productive food-growing spaces while helping you avoid one of the biggest problems gardeners face during warm weather, bolting. Number 17, watercress. USDA zones, 3 to 11. Watercress is one of the most nutrient-dense vegetables you can grow. In nature, it often grows along cool streams and shaded waterways where direct sunlight is limited. That makes it surprisingly well suited to partially shaded gardens. The peppery leaves are packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, while the cooler conditions help maintain tender growth and better flavor. Many gardeners grow watercress in containers, shallow water features, or consistently moist garden beds. When protected from intense summer heat, it can provide a steady harvest of fresh greens for months. And unlike many leafy vegetables, watercress often seems happiest when the weather stays cool and the sunlight remains filtered. Number 16, arugula. USDA zones, 3 to 11. Arugula is famous for its peppery flavor, but too much heat can quickly turn that pleasant bite into overwhelming bitterness. In full summer sun, arugula often bolts before gardeners have time to enjoy more than a few harvests. Partial shade changes everything. The cooler conditions help maintain tender leaves and slow the flowering process, giving gardeners weeks of additional harvests. Arugula is also one of the fastest-growing vegetables on this list. Many varieties are ready to harvest in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. That's a remarkable return from a shady corner that many people would otherwise leave unused. Number 15, lettuce. USDA zones, 2 to 11. Lettuce may be the most famous shade-friendly vegetable of all. While it grows in full sun during cool weather, many gardeners discover that summer sunlight becomes its worst enemy. Intense heat causes lettuce to bolt, become bitter, and lose the crisp texture that makes it so enjoyable. A little shade during the hottest part of the day can dramatically improve leaf quality. In fact, many professional growers use shade cloth specifically to create the same effect. Leaf lettuce, romaine, butterhead, and many specialty varieties all benefit from some protection when temperatures climb. But if you think lettuce appreciates shade, the next vegetable practically treats it like a luxury. We're now entering the part of the list where shade stops being just an advantage and starts becoming a genuine preference. These vegetables often produce better flavor, better texture, and longer harvests when protected from intense afternoon sun. Number 14, Kale. USDA zones, 2 to 11. Most people think of kale as a sun-loving crop, but experienced gardeners know there's a big difference between surviving in full sun and thriving in partial shade. During hot weather, strong afternoon sunlight can stress kale plants and make leaves tougher over time. Partial shade helps maintain moisture in the soil and keeps plants growing steadily. Many gardeners also notice that shaded kale develops a milder, sweeter flavor compared to kale grown in intense summer heat. Another major advantage is that kale can continue producing for months. Harvest the outer leaves regularly, and the plant keeps generating fresh growth from the center. A single planting can provide dozens of harvests throughout the season. Number 13, Swiss chard. USDA zones, 3 to 10. Swiss chard may be one of the most adaptable vegetables in the entire garden. It grows well in full sun, but it often performs even better when given afternoon shade during warm weather. The colorful stems and large leaves remain tender longer, while reduced heat stress helps plants continue producing through summer. One reason gardeners love Swiss chard is its incredible productivity. Unlike head-forming vegetables that provide a single harvest, chard can be harvested repeatedly for months. Simply remove the outer leaves and allow the center to keep growing. This cut and come again habit makes it one of the most reliable vegetables for partially shaded gardens. Number 12, Bok choy. USDA zones, 2 to 11. Bok choy has a reputation for bolting quickly. And unfortunately, that reputation is well deserved. When exposed to heat and long days, many varieties rush into flower production, ending the harvest almost overnight. Partial shade helps slow this process dramatically. By keeping temperatures lower around the plants, gardeners can extend harvests and produce larger, more tender heads. The crisp stems and succulent leaves are excellent in stir-fries, soups, salads, and countless Asian-inspired dishes. For gardeners who struggle with premature bolting, moving bok choy into a partially shaded location can completely change the results. And speaking of vegetables that hate hot weather, the next crop is so naturally adapted to woodland environments that many gardeners grow it successfully under trees. At this point on the list, we're getting into vegetables that can transform places many gardeners consider impossible for food production. Some of these crops evolved in woodland environments and naturally prefer filtered sunlight over long hours of direct exposure. Number 11, Sorrel. USDA zones, 3 to 9. Sorrel is one of the earliest vegetables to wake up in spring, often producing fresh leaves while other crops are still dormant. Its bright lemony flavor makes it a favorite for soups, salads, sauces, and egg dishes. Unlike many leafy greens, sorrel actually appreciates partial shade, especially during hot summers. The cooler conditions help prevent leaf burn and keep the plant productive for longer periods. Since sorrel is a perennial vegetable, a single planting can continue producing for years. Many gardeners harvest from the same clump season after season with very little maintenance. If you're looking for a shade-friendly crop that keeps coming back, sorrel is hard to beat. Number 10, Endive. USDA zones, 4 to 11. Endive doesn't get nearly as much attention as lettuce, but it deserves a place in every shade garden. Its slightly bitter leaves add complexity to salads and become surprisingly sweet when cooked. While endive grows in full sun, partial shade often improves leaf quality and reduces stress during warm weather. The result is a more tender harvest and a longer growing season. Many gardeners also find that shaded endive develops less bitterness than plants exposed to intense heat. For anyone who enjoys gourmet salad greens, this is one vegetable worth discovering. Number 9, mizuna. USDA zones, 4 to 11. Mizuna is one of those vegetables that makes gardeners wonder why it isn't more popular. This Japanese mustard green grows quickly, tolerates cool temperatures, and performs exceptionally well in partial shade. The feathery leaves have a mild peppery flavor that's much gentler than traditional mustard greens. Because mizuna resists bolting better than many leafy vegetables, it can provide harvests long after lettuce and spinach have started to struggle. Many gardeners harvest it repeatedly using the cut-and-come-again method, allowing plants to produce fresh leaves for months. And while mizuna is impressively productive, the next vegetable has been quietly thriving in forest gardens for centuries and may be one of the best shade crops you've never grown. Now we're entering the top half of the list, where some of the most shade-adapted vegetables begin to appear. These are the crops that can turn difficult growing conditions into a surprisingly productive harvest. Number 8, Good King Henry. USDA zones, 3 to 9. Good King Henry has been grown in European cottage gardens for centuries, yet many modern gardeners have never heard of it. Often called perennial spinach, this hardy vegetable naturally tolerates partial shade and woodland-like conditions. The young leaves can be cooked like spinach, while the spring shoots are often compared to asparagus. Unlike annual greens that require replanting every year, Good King Henry returns from the same roots season after season. Once established, it can provide reliable harvests for many years with very little maintenance. That's a remarkable return from a plant that many gardeners overlook entirely. Number 7, Malabar spinach. USDA zones, 7 to 11. Annual in cooler climates. Malabar spinach isn't actually spinach at all. It's a vigorous climbing vine that thrives during the hottest months of the year when traditional spinach has long since bolted. What makes it especially valuable is its ability to produce well in locations receiving only partial sunlight. The thick, glossy leaves remain tender and productive throughout summer. Because it grows vertically, Malabar spinach is also an excellent choice for small gardens where space is limited. Give it a trellis, fence, or support structure, and it can quickly create a living wall of edible greenery. Many gardeners consider it one of the most productive leafy vegetables for warm climates. Number 6, Tatsoi. USDA zones, 4 to 11. Tatsoi may be one of the most beautiful vegetables on this list. Its dark green spoon-shaped leaves form attractive rosettes that look almost ornamental in the garden. But its real strength is shade tolerance. Tatsoi thrives in cool weather and often performs significantly better in partial shade than in intense sunlight. The leaves remain tender, crisp, and mild while many other greens become bitter. It's also remarkably cold-hardy. In many regions, tatsoi continues producing long after other leafy vegetables have disappeared. And if you think tatsoi handles shade well, the next plant naturally grows beneath forest canopies and may be one of the easiest vegetables you'll ever cultivate in low-light conditions. We're down to the final 5, and these vegetables aren't just shade-tolerant, they're among the best performers in low-light gardens. In fact, some gardeners specifically seek out shady locations to grow them because the harvest quality can be dramatically better. Number 5, Miner's lettuce, Claytonia. USDA zones, 3 to 9. Earlier in the countdown, we briefly mentioned Claytonia. But its shade-growing abilities are so impressive that it deserves a closer look. Miner's lettuce naturally grows in forests and woodland clearings where direct sunlight is often limited. That's why it performs beautifully in shaded gardens. The succulent leaves have a mild, refreshing flavor and remain tender far longer than many traditional salad greens. During hot weather, full sun can quickly stress the plants. Partial shade allows them to continue producing fresh growth while maintaining excellent flavor. For gardeners struggling with difficult shady areas, Miner's lettuce can feel almost effortless. Number 4, beets. USDA zones, 2 to 11. This entry surprises many gardeners. Most people think root vegetables demand full sun, but beets are far more flexible than their reputation suggests. While full sun may produce slightly larger roots, beets still grow very successfully in partial shade. In fact, shaded conditions often result in sweeter, more tender leaves that can be harvested as nutritious greens. Many gardeners treat beets as a 2-for-1 crop, harvesting both roots and foliage. If your garden receives 4 to 6 hours of sunlight, beets can still deliver impressive harvests. And unlike many leafy crops, they continue providing value even when conditions aren't perfect. Number 3, parsley. USDA zones, 4 to 11. Most gardeners grow parsley as an herb, but technically it's also a leafy vegetable. And when it comes to shade tolerance, parsley is a true champion. In hot climates, partial shade often produces healthier plants than full sun. The cooler conditions help maintain lush growth and prevent leaves from becoming stressed during summer heat. Parsley also has one of the longest harvest windows of any edible plant. Regular harvesting encourages continuous production for months. A single planting can supply fresh leaves for soups, salads, sauces, and countless recipes throughout the growing season. And while parsley is incredibly reliable, the top 2 vegetables on this list are even more famous for thriving where sunlight is limited. We've reached the final 2 vegetables, and these are the crops that convince many gardeners that shade isn't a problem at all, it's an opportunity. If you've been struggling to grow food in low-light areas, these last 2 plants may completely change the way you think about your garden. Number 15, garden cress. USDA zones, 4 to 11. Many gardeners overlook garden cress because it grows so quickly. But that's exactly what makes it valuable. Garden cress can go from seed to harvest in just a few weeks, making it one of the fastest vegetables for shaded gardens. Unlike many crops that demand long hours of direct sunlight, garden cress remains productive in partial shade and cool conditions. Its peppery flavor adds a punch to salads, sandwiches, soups, and microgreen mixes. Because it grows rapidly and tolerates lower light levels, gardeners often use it to fill empty spaces where other vegetables struggle. And once you see how fast it grows, you may start planting it throughout the season. Number 1, spinach. USDA zones, 2 to 11. Spinach may be the ultimate shade-loving vegetable. In fact, many experienced gardeners intentionally avoid growing it in full summer sun whenever possible. Why? Because heat is spinach's greatest enemy. Strong sunlight and high temperatures cause rapid bolting, bitter leaves, and short harvest windows. Partial shade helps keep plants cool and productive. The difference can be dramatic. Instead of producing for only a few weeks, shaded spinach often continues supplying tender, nutritious leaves for much longer. It's also one of the most nutrient-dense vegetables you can grow, packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber. For gardeners with limited sunlight, spinach proves that some of the healthiest foods don't require full sun to thrive. And that's why it earns the number 1 spot on our list. Most gardeners see shade and think limitation. But as you've seen today, shade can actually become one of the greatest assets in your garden. From spinach and lettuce to sorrel, parsley, tatsoi, good King Henry, and miner's lettuce, these vegetables can transform low-light spaces into productive growing areas. In many cases, the shade doesn't just help them survive. It helps them thrive. The next time you look at a partially shaded corner of your yard, don't see a problem. See an opportunity to grow food where many gardeners assume nothing useful can grow. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these shade-loving vegetables have you grown successfully? And is there one that surprised you on today's list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more gardening tips, homesteading ideas, and productive crops that help you grow more food with less effort. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next garden.